Well, I just don't. I think that the intros are silly because if you think about it in terms of a golf course, right? You know, if you do an intro, you're smacking down the clubhouse somewhere, and that's the last thing you want to do, right? You want to be able to have like a freewheeling start. Like you don't know what the most interesting part of the the guest is going to get comfortable, and so I don't believe in the intro because it'd be like giving an architect. Like if you give the architect free reign on the land, you can chop it up, you can move stuff around. I never really do that because I don't put time into editing. But you can maneuver better without the intro because you don't have to start with that pleasantry of like, hello, how are you?
Yeah.
And then the awkward, I'm good. You know, like it allows the first question to be something that like the conversation can start really quick. Because if you think about a golf course, a great golf course is get your attention quick, right?
I think that's the best intro we've had on this podcast, to be fair.
It's not going to stop me anyway. Hello and welcome back to the
No, don't do it, Tom. He's lured you in.
It wasn't a convincing argument.
Andy, welcome.
Guys, I'm a big fan. Thank you for having me on. I'm, excited to pick your brain for when I make my trip over there.
Yeah, so we were talking about this in the pre-roll, weren't we? So the 150th this year, you're making the pilgrimage.
About time. COVID kind of ruined a few plans the last couple of years. So I'm really excited to get over.
You haven't struck a ball yet off pure fescue links turf, have you? Because that's never happened. No. I people think this is absurd. I played one round of international golf, and it happened a few weeks before I started the Fried Egg. I was on a trip to Argentina with my wife to visit one of her best friends who lived down there, and her best friend, it was the guy she was dating was an Argentinian, and he was like, Andy, you like golf? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I'm a member of the Jockey Club. Do you want to play? I didn't bring my clubs or anything, so I went to the Jockey Club. We were out at the Buenos Aires clubs till like 4 a.m. And I went and played at the Jockey Club with a vicious hangover and rental clubs. And that was the only international round of golf that I've played. That's insane. I honestly can't believe that for someone who has the platform that you do on golf, and particularly golf architecture. You kind of.
So I'm a fraud, it's basically.
Yeah, that's for one of the better terms.
A well-read fraud there.
Yeah. Well, you've got to fake it till you make it, haven't you, Tom? Andy, I mean, you touched on it there. I mean, I've kind of enjoyed some of your content for a few years. Your road in golf, it doesn't start with a fried egg. You played a lot of golf as a kid, right? And growing up, and you've played some quite good amateur stuff. Just give us a bit of a background on your sort of route into the game.
Yeah, I grew up in a town called Lake Bluff. It's a small little town, but it's right next to Lake Forest, which is where CB Macdonald actually his first golf was played in Lake Forest in America. It was, you hear the story about him laying out a course with a friend before he built Chicago Golf. It was in Lake Forest, which is interesting. But I grew up working at country clubs and playing golf at a muni in town called Lake Bluff Golf Club, which is where I would ride my bike with a buddy every day. He actually owns a golf bag company now, Chaplin Golf Bags, which is named after Harry Colt. But
yeah.
It's funny that we're both in the golf business now. But yeah, I grew up working at country clubs, so I was at a golf course all day, dusk to dawn. And Knollwood Club was where I worked mostly in my childhood, and they gave me some playing privileges for teaching junior golf. So then that assured that I was at the golf course like every single day, whether I was working or practicing and playing. And then I played high school golf, didn't play college golf. And then I started playing amateur golf after college, and then got working. And you know how you kind of lose touch a little bit when you're in your early 20s. I feel like a lot of people do, because you don't have a lot of money. You're at a job that you work really hard at. But I kept trying to play as much as I could on weekends. And then I got into the mid-am circuit in my later 20s and played some good golf. And I was working then at tech startups, and I got the entrepreneurial itch. And one day I started writing about golf. And
Wow.
and I wanted to start my own company, and it turned out to be golf media that did it, even though I was a abysmal writer. And my wife, who was a journalism major, she cried the first time she had to edit one of my pieces. So that's how bad it was.
Insane. I want to drill into the fried egg a little bit before we get started on your Eclectic 18. But you touched on it there, the mid-am circuit. That's a huge thing, isn't it, in the States? We don't really have so much of that in the UK.
It is and it isn't. You know, it's just a bunch of guys that work and play a lot of golf. You know, I think the mid-am circuit is fun. It's a great collection, great camaraderie. It's really fun. I think that's one of the things that's super neat about golf, and especially the USGA having the mid-am. The US mid-am is an amazing thing, because it's not like I could go play like the national baseball championship as like a over the hill 30-year-old, right? A guy that never was good enough to play professional golf can play in that. But the US mid-am is like a legit thing that people can play in. And then there's a bunch of other great mid-am tournaments. And then obviously I think one of the most fun things to do is if you can play state ams, because you end up with stories like Nick Hardy being 28 shots better than you in a state am, and now he's on the PGA Tour, and you're like,
it figures.
It's a sign that he's really good.
He was quite good at golf.
Yeah, and you know, so I think that's fun. Obviously, since I started this, the time that goes into your own business kind of sucks away the time that you could pursue your own golf career, unless, you know, especially if you want to have a good life at home with kids and family, you know.
It's not all day striping 7-irons, is it?
No. I don't have the game I used to, but if I focus, one of my biggest issues is a lack of focus. You know, I'm kind of out there to do other things than play a really good round of golf, if that makes sense.
Tom's the video man, so Tom's our sort of chief editor. So I mean, you're probably the biggest victim of this out of the three of us, aren't you, Tom? You know,
I just got to stand behind the camera and let these boys stripe irons, and then every time it's. Do you know, we went to a tailor-made fitting, three of us, so me, Sam, and Bruce, and we were going to make this big film about it all, and we said what we'll do is we'll film this, and we'll film you boys getting fit, and we'll talk about the process. And I filmed Sam and Bruce, and it got to my go. They both just left and practiced putting. The camera fell on the floor, and it was absolutely atrocious. They just leave me to it. So now I got to stand behind the camera and just watch these hit 7-irons. But with regard to the mid-am scene, Andy, like the amateur series here in Britain, they tend to play better, more historic and architecturally diverse courses than compared to, say, the professional game when they come, which is kind of geared up for tournament golf. Do you find that in America that the courses they play on the mid-am circuit is just a bit more interesting than what you see in the pro game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, two of the most famous mid-am events are that I want to be clear. I haven't played in these. The Crump Cup and the Coleman Cup are at Pine Valley and Seminole. I think there's something about, you know, professional golf is a huge production, and a lot of membership clubs in America don't necessarily want that huge production coming. You know, it's a circus, right? You have to give up your golf course for a couple weeks. You have to a lot of times make changes for the tour to host an event. You know, they'll come in and meddle with your golf course, which I think is just preposterous. And versus like you can hold an event with 50 guys that work for a living that are the best players in their area of working guys. Some of them work, some don't work, you know, important distinction, but that are like extremely appreciative of the opportunity to come play at a really cool place. So I think that's the thing. I think amateur events are a little bit easier. In some states, it's important to note, some states are way better than other states. Illinois is really bad at getting the great courses in Chicago to host their state tournaments.
Really?
But then you go look at Philly, who has like the Philly Am, the Philly Mid Am. They're at Marion, at Huntington Valley, at Lancaster, like at these great iconic golf courses. And then like Wisconsin's really great at it. I think their state Am has been at Milwaukee Country Club, Lawsonia. It's at Erin Hills, I think this year, maybe. I'm not sure. Erin Hills recently, and they go to these great tournament courses. The Mid-Am's at Erin Hills this year, so it's not this year there. But different states are better at it too. So I think that's one of the neat things. Before I started the Fried Egg, my access point onto great golf courses in Chicago really revolved around me playing good tournament golf to get into events.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think you mentioned at the start of that the Crump Cup, and for our listeners that don't know, the Crump Cup, so you'll keep me honest here, and it's essentially it's an amateur only event, isn't it? Played at Pine Valley, obviously in honor of Crump, the sort of founder designer.
It's a Mid-Am event, so it's 25 and older.
25 and over. Well, yeah. I got this little story. You won't believe this, Andy. One of my good friends, and I'm not going to give away too many details here, but he was checking his phone the other day, and he checked the junk inbox, and he had an invite to the Crump Cup in there.
That's tough.
Insane or what? Luckily, it only landed about 2 days before. This guy's an absolute ball striker by all accounts. Checked his junk mail, and in there's an invite. Like how much?
I wonder about that all the time.
Like, that.
When was the last time you checked
about it? I'm not worried about it. I can guarantee you I've not got an invite for the Crump Cup.
He's been checking his junk mail every day. That's why.
I'm not saying a Crump Cup invite is in there, but I always wonder what's in my junk mail. I never look at it. What have I missed over the last? I can't remember the last time I even looked at the junk mail. What have I missed in the time that I've ignored my junk mail?
Just about
Ben's email.
Just about 20 DMs from Cookie Jar Golf. That's all.
Yeah, I presume so. I think anyway. Before I took us on, Legend, just tell us a little bit about the Fried Egg. I'm guessing what you're doing now with the Fried Egg is maybe radically different to maybe when you set out and what the goal was.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that started a business probably understands this, but as your business grows, one of the hardest things is that your job changes so much. And what my job used to be like, I just figure out how to do stuff and start doing it, and then it became my process and everything. And now we're growing, and thankfully we've had a lot of support from readers, listeners, and viewers that have watched our stuff. Come to our events and different things, and we've been able to grow with people, and now my job's so much less in the weeds and so much more about managing what's going on, but still producing a lot of content on my own, but not doing the video editing or the photo editing or the podcast editing. But yeah, we do. We write about professional golf and golf course architecture and golf courses in the U.S. I think we kind of created a big space there that we've seen a lot of people come into since, and just kind of like realizing that the game isn't all about the pro game. We obviously cover it. I'm a huge fan of professional golf, and we do that, but there is more to it, and kind of architecture is where we had our calling card to start. So we do a newsletter that's 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's free. That's a really great way to stay up to date with the game and then what we have going on in terms of our other content. We have a website, thefriedegg.com, and then we have a couple podcasts. We have the Fried Egg, which is mostly an interview-based podcast that talks with from golf architecture to PGA Tour talk, and then we have the Shotgun Start, which is a 3-day-a-week podcast that I host with Brendan Porath, and
we talk about the inanity of professional golf there, mostly current events.
Takes.
Yeah, it's a silly show that has a lot of inside jokes and stuff. I can't believe people tune in to listen to some of the things we talk about.
But you're doing events as well, right? So you'll start doing your events recently. We've run a few events last year, and we've got more coming this year. And I don't know, our experience certainly in the UK is getting people together at those events. That's been like the most fulfilling of sort of like thing we've done within Cookie Jar, because it's just like a physical manifestation of everything you're doing. You see people just buzzing as well, don't you? Which is really cool.
Yeah, the first event we did was at Lawsonia in 2018, maybe 2019, 2018. Yeah. I can't remember the years before COVID, but I remember looking around, and you realize that like the 100 people that were there, none of them, like almost all of them, were strangers coming in, and you'd see these people and they'd be talking, and it'd be like, God, if you looked at it, you're like, they must be best friends. And you'd realize that they met that morning. And I think that's one of the most neat things about the internet is it allows these people, like, and I think, what you guys do, what we do is a perfect example, is the internet just allows people to nerd out to the fullest level. It allows you to dive and get so nitty gritty on your interests. And when you bring all these people together, it's like they've been best friends for years, because they have so much that they want to talk about and share, and experiences they share. And you see these people like setting up golf games for the coming weeks. And I agree. It's like one of the most fulfilling things. It's why we're doing events. We're going to do more and more of them. We try and make them as affordable as possible. And because we want people to be able to experience these courses, but also be able to experience the great golf community that exists, especially within the subcultures of golf, which I think is one of the neatest things about the game of golf. Is it's got all these subcultures, whether you're a gearhead, whether you're super into the PGA Tour or European Tour, whether you're into golf courses and architecture. There's all these different little facets of golf that have this cult followings.
I think it's fair to say that your intro into it was golf course architecture, and that's where the newsletter started. That's where the website started. What was it that first gave you the bug? What was it that really caught the imagination when you got involved with golf course architecture?
It was always something that I was interested in. I had read Golf Club Atlas is an amazing website that does a lot of stuff on golf architecture. I mean, it's a good place to have a scrap if you want to have an argument with somebody, I find. I mean, there are some drawbacks over there, but I think, in terms of the resources, the amount of information that's over there, especially one of the sad things is what happened to that website, because they had so many great historians that were contributing early on there, whether it be like your Tommy Naccaratos or Tom Pauls. I mean, Tommy Naccarato has forgotten more about golf architecture than I ever hope to know. He is a brilliant. I mean, the guy, if you want to know anything about any California golf course, he will probably have a whole gallery of old photos that nobody else has and knowledge. I mean, there are so many great minds that were over on that website early on. And, but like I was a kid, I was never a member. I didn't get to become a member until the Fried Egg was somewhat successful. And, as a kid, I would read that and try and find places to play when I went places that were recommended by them that were public. And I would read the message boards, and, that's what really popular kids in college did. So that's why I did it. But I was always super interested. I didn't know if there would be an audience, and the Fried Egg was like it at first, like I thought I was going to be writing about competitive golf. And then I decided one day to write something on I guess the first thing was like, I went to Sweetens Cove. My friend had told me to go check it out. And because he had seen their Instagram page, and that I wrote an article about Sweetens Cove because I was kind of shocked that this really cool golf course had nobody there on a beautiful Saturday. And that's the impetus that got me to write about Sweetens Cove. It was a really popular article. And then I wrote a golf architecture specific article on Redan holes. And I published it on the 4th of July, which is the worst day to publish an article.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, that,
on that
Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July are probably the 3 worst days. Yeah. And we had
no one's into Redan on those days. No.
Well, we had like 8x the traffic that day of our best day. And really? I was like, oh, there's something here. And, you know, and that's when I just started to dive into golf architecture. The podcast, a lot of people will ask me for advice with regards to starting like a business in golf. And I always say you have to be really unique, and you shouldn't ever look at what other people do to do your business. Like, you shouldn't copy. You know, I think a lot of people look at No Laying Up success and they copy it. And those guys have been so successful because they've been themselves. And I think that's the best piece of advice you can give, is if you're just uniquely you, nobody can copy that. And that's why those guys have had a lot of success. And I think that's why we've been able to carve out a spot, is that we've been ourselves. We aren't trying to copy other people. And I think, like, you know, that you see a lot of the major outlets, their Twitter presence has morphed into trying to be like No Laying Up, and it's exposed them even worse on Twitter, because it's just like, this isn't what you guys want to say, that you're just trying to be them. And I think that's the thing I always tell people. But if you're yourself, and you're pretty interesting and you have a vision, you're gonna be successful with time. You got to be super patient, though. It's hard.
We always find niche prevails is the saying we have. The more niche you go on a topic, it's like the more it goes crazy. Like, last year I wrote this pretty self-indulgent 500-word article about Kimmel, which is it's a little sort of like sickly sort of sweet spirit you drink after lunch at a lot of like really good golf clubs. And this thing was like, I was like, Tom, the website's just not going to handle this. It's blowing up here. And you could see them all coming in from different places. And you're like, this is the nichiest thing ever. But it's, for some reason, people just really dig it. And I think, but that, like you said, that's the great thing about the internet. We're here to talk
exactly.
about
That's like, yeah, diving deep is the recipe.
Absolutely.
And for some, if you're a golf nut, right? If
exactly, if you're really into it, you don't want the surface level stuff. It's like, I know that stuff already, so like, give me something I don't know. And I think that's where certainly Cookie Jar gets to step in. One thing I'm curious about is, we obviously talked about the Eclectic 18, because I've been thinking for a while, like, there's got to be something good where we can collaborate, we can talk. And I was like, well, this is perfect. So we did the Eclectic 18 earlier this year, and I've tried to sort of road test it as a series of podcasts with guests, because I think I mentioned in my message to you, in the UK, we have this thing called Desert Island Discs. If you're stranded on a desert island, which records would you take? So it's kind of the same thing. It's like your story through golf. And you were like, yeah, I think your words were, yeah, I'm all in on this. Like, definitely want to do it. You've done something similar, I think, in the past, have you? Or you've looked at favorite golf holes, certainly before. But how did you find this exercise itself, in terms of, got to be a different golf course, you've got the hole number has to correspond? How did you find it?
Well, I totally copped out. It was way too hard, to be completely honest. I was not ready
to
give.
Isn't it? It's a tough exercise.
Well, I wasn't ready to give you my Eclectic 18. I was ready to give you some form of an Eclectic 18, and it was like, I set out with the intention to give you the full Eclectic 18. And I immediately realized, I was like, because I was racking my brain. I think, like, the way I tried to do it, and if anybody tries to do this exercise, I listed out hole numbers, and I just started going through courses, in what holes on a course might merit discussion. Because what you want to do is, you want to take all the holes that you think are world-class holes and put them on paper. You can't, and I think it's similar to a laying out a golf course. Having watched a few people go through a routing exercise before, you can't get married to one hole. Like, you can't get married to, I have to have the 16th at Cypress Point on my routing.
It's too hard, isn't it? Because you end up losing it somewhere along the lines.
Well, because Cypress Point has 10 holes that could be on here, and their 5th hole might make your whole course the strongest, right? Having 5 in there. And then, so I started going through that, and I was like, this is going to take me a fucking year to do.
It's hard.
And no offense, I wasn't going to spend a year of my time for your podcast, and I'm sorry. So I had to
insult.
I had to filter it down. So I decided that, and part of this is I haven't been over to the UK. So I was like, well, most of your audience is probably from there. And I'm going to be telling you about courses that nobody's heard of. But I ended up going with public golf. So anybody could go play it. It's got to be a public golf course. And the hole has to be under 400 yards. Because I think there should be golf courses that are 5,000 yards.
Yeah.
And that
was Sandy, am I getting this right?
The choir
you've taken a task that you thought was too difficult and you've put extra rules to make it essentially
it narrowed down
difficult.
The number of holes. It narrowed down the selections that I could make. So it narrowed down the number of hundreds of golf holes or thousands of golf holes that I had to go through in my head. Because then all of a sudden it's like, I was going to do short par 4s and long par 3s. I was thinking about doing, but then I was like, well, I'll just expand it to par 3s too. So short par 4s, sub 400 yards, and par 3s.
Well, you were really strict on it because we had to take one out. I seem to remember you came back and were like, I can't have, I want to say 9. Was it 9 at Great? That was it. 9th at Pack Dunes, upper green. You were like, yeah, it's a really cool hole, but it's 410 yards. I can't have it. It's got to go. It's got to be under 400.
So I had to read. Luckily, it was easy because I could move Pack Dunes to 6, and I could move Greywalls to 5 and Wild Horse to 9. And I didn't have to do a wholesale change. I reworked the 3 holes affected, and they all worked with the same course.
I think it's great because when we've done, we do have a lot of people that listen to this podcast based in UK, but we have a ton of people that listen to this in the States as well. And whenever we talk about golf courses in America, we end up on, and look, I'm not going to give you a free pass on this because Sweetens Cove is in there. You think you've got 3 Bandon picks. So this is down to a 14-hole exercise, but it's hard to get people to say anything but Bandon. Pinehurst is also in yours, actually. Pinehurst and Sweetens Cove. They always talk about those sort of like holy trinity of golf places. So it's cool that you've got these like public courses. Some of them are a bit niche. Some of them will be better known. Obviously Bandon is hard to ignore because you're talking about I think they have 4 probably of the 100 best courses in the country. I'm not a big ranking guy, but there's 4. There's nowhere that has 4, 5 really. You could say 5 courses, but I believe there's 4 really premier golf courses there that are as good or better than, almost Pinehurst number 2 can rival them, but no other course at Pinehurst can rival those 4. And if you throw Pinehurst Mid Pines together, that's a really good combo. But you're still way short of Bandon. And same thing, Sand Valley is a really cool place, but I don't think those golf courses are up to the level of Bandon. Streamsong is as good as you can get in the Southeast, but they're still the best at Bandon or better. I think some of the Streamsong can contend with the Old Mac, the Sheep Ranch level course. But Bandon's hard to avoid because of that. And then you start to see some courses have an embarrassment of riches of sub 400 yard holes. Bandon or Pacific Dunes, Tom Doak's course there. You could do 1, you could do 2, you could do 5, you could do 6, you can't do 9 because it's 407, 406, 403 or whatever.
Yeah, but you could do 10, you could do 11, you could do 14, you could do 16, 17. So you had, and this is the key. This is why you can't get locked down. I ended up with what I think is the best short par 4 at Pacific Dunes. But if 9 had been sub 400, it was going to be in my routing because I thought
it flowed better with Wild Horse 5, and so you can't get married to a specific hole. Is my
it's a proper head scratcher though, isn't it?
I know people are going to think I'm a lunatic. Oh, this is
no. They already do. Half an hour in, it's all good.
People on my team were like, "You're still working on that thing," and I'm like, "Yeah, I am. It's a hard exercise."
One of the thing that pops up a lot when we do this is when they're doing. You find that in the Eclectic 18, you might have a hole in your Eclectic 18 from a golf course, which isn't even your favorite hole on that golf course because of the way that the whole thing fits. It's so bizarre. It's such a difficult thing to put together. And I'm pleased that you've decided to put in the effort and come away with something
the fact
interesting.
It's different though as well. So I like the fact that it's different. So, everyone goes for the past 72. Everyone lists out the trophy courses. So the two things there that I want to talk about before we jump into the holes. One, 5,000 yards long. Like, that's amazing. Like distance and just, how that for you strikes enjoyment. But two, I think public golf, talking to somebody who plays mostly golf in America, that whole public versus private thing's massive. Talk to me a little bit about the public-private thing and how important that is to you.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I dislike about American golf so much is how closed off the best courses in the world are. And I think if you look at other industries, restaurants are open to all. Like there's a price barrier, right? But I could save up and go eat at the best restaurant in Chicago, Alinea. It's super expensive, but it's attainable. And I think one of the things that's frustrating about American golf is so much of the great golf is really unattainable unless you know the right people or happen to get lucky with like an outing, a corporate outing or something. So I think one of the things that we've done is really make a point to find a really good, affordable public golf. It's one of the things that we'll always continue to do is, sometimes you got to pass up invites at really great places to go play the $25 Muni down the street that you think might have some good bones. And this list has some courses on here. I mean, Eagle Springs, the first hole is $19 to go play. They might have raised the rate. It might be over 20. It's a 9-hole course. The Pacific Grove, I think, has a $35 back nine rate. It's got the back nine is absolutely stunning in Pebble Beach. If you got to go play early in the morning. Diamond Springs is a $45.
You've got to start reeling these.
Pacific Grove is right next to Pebble Beach. It's a town next to Pebble Beach, Pacific Grove. It's a municipal golf course. The back nine's incredible. It's a Chandler Egan Jack Neville golf course. And the back nine's incredible. It's right on the ocean and sand dunes. The front nine, not so great, but Diamond Springs is a Mike DeVries course, who's obviously designed like Cape Wickham and Kingsley Club and Greywalls and some other great ones. But Diamond Springs is $45, and it's within 45 minutes of Grand Rapids. George Wright, anybody can play for under $100. It's in the city of Boston. I'd recommend playing as early as possible. Slow play can be an issue there. But yeah, it's a mix. A lot of the best holes are at resort courses. That's no doubt. But there are also, Aiken Golf Club's $25 golf course and right outside of Augusta. So that, there are affordable golf and attainable golf here.
Is it more difficult to find good public golf? Is it hard to source?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things I think that the retail golfer struggles with, they get, the quality of the course is the conditioning of the course. And a lot of times what I find is that the most interesting golf course are the cheapest golf courses in the town because they're a little scruffy.
Yeah.
And, the best course is usually kind of like you pay for maintenance. And that's one of the reasons that I put together this list that's 5,000 yards is I think there should be courses that are par 66s at 5,000 yards because it would be cheaper to play because it's a smaller footprint
The maintenance costs are less. There's less land required. There's a lot of issues that golf's going to be confronting with environmental stuff is around sustainability. And this size of golf is much more sustainable at a large scale, than the 7,200 yard championship golf course. But yeah, I think public golf it's hard to find really good golf in some cities. There are other cities that have an embarrassment of riches. Like Grand Rapids is a small city that has 3 Mike DeVries golf courses, designed, and all of them are under $100 to play. So that is a example of a city that's got a lot of good public golf. San Francisco, they have Pasatiempo, whose rates have gone up significantly in the last few years, but it's well worth playing. It's one of those golf courses that I think is like a great restaurant. Like it's a special occasion golf course that everybody should go see. It's super expensive, but then they have like the Presidio, which is I was blown away by this a couple of weeks ago, that for out of towner, it's in the city of San Francisco. So if you're there for a wedding, you can take a $10 Uber to the Presidio and play for $120, like in the city. Like that. Yeah. That to me, like great golf in cities is so rare, and when you find it, is so good. But like all city courses, you got to go early, or else you're going to get a 6-hour round.
Yeah.
Public golf in America sucks. This is basically the translation.
You've got to have a hack,
I'm going slightly off tangent here, but like in the UK, it's kind of like a hybrid approach where most clubs have membership, but then allow people to visit if they want to come. With the public golf courses in America, are they just strictly public, or do they have some level of membership to go with it?
So a lot of them have like public memberships where, like where I grew up, they had this great junior membership. It was $195 for the entire year for me to play golf. And I had some blackout times. Like I couldn't play on Saturday and Sunday mornings or Friday mornings, but I could play all the time for $200. And then for my parents, I think it was around $1,000 then. I'm sure it's way more now, but a lot of public courses have those memberships where it bypasses your greens fees. But then, on Saturday and Sundays, a lot of courses have, reserved tee time blocks. So you can't even play before 10 a.m. unless you have one of those reserved tee time blocks. Yeah. So they a little bit of membership, but for the most part, public courses are public. And then there's a few private clubs that offer, public tee times. And I think that number was getting bigger before COVID, and now it's smaller after COVID with the popularity. Like, private clubs used to have a ton of capacity, but now they have very little because of COVID.
The same thing's happened here. I mean, it's gone mental in terms of participation because of COVID. It's just gone through the roof. So everything's just got more difficult.
I mean, these are good problems for golf. We're seeing unforeseen development since the 90s here. Like there's so many golf courses being built, so many golf courses being renovated. I think one thing to keep an eye on is there's going to be a lot of like very mediocre architects getting a lot of work, and it's going to end up with a lot of courses that probably need to redo their redo down the line. But that's one of the things is that there's it's a golf supply and demand, right? The story of the last 7 years was golf courses closing before COVID. And now the story is like golf courses getting built again, which is really great for the health of the industry, but it's probably going to go too far and there's going to be a market correction to the mean, right?
Yeah. And clubs have got more money now as well. I mean, like they've all of a sudden come into more cash. It's like, how are they going to spend it? They might bring in a guy who says we should stick a pond over here, or, it would look good with some trees up there. And you're like, oh God, like you say, anything could happen with more people entering the market, more people playing the game. I do wonder whether or not, without the exciting places that, about, maybe we see a little bit of over here, the people just play a really like homogenized version of the game, and it just ultimately become disenfranchised. More people playing golf, maybe more people switch off golf in time. But, I always hope that, these guys that are starting playing the game stick with it.
Well, I think one of the bummers is something I always say about municipal golf is like,
municipal golf in America is the entry point for almost everybody. Nobody goes and plays Pine Valley for their first time, right? Like it's not how it works. Like you go hit balls at a range, and then you go to like the dumpy municipal down the street. And I think it's kind of silly and backwards, but municipal golf has like, a lot of municipalities say, well, we can't have something like that. We need to have something that's a little more bland. Like we can't have the crazy stuff that's at that club. And when you think about, like, if I was trying to get somebody to, I always use this analogy, so I apologize to the crossover audience. But if you're trying to get somebody to drink coffee, I wouldn't take them to a gas station at 9 p.m. to get a cup of coffee. Like I like if I'm trying to convince them that coffee's great, I'm going to take them to the nice coffee shop and get them like a really good cup of coffee. And when you think about the entry point to golf, is we give them, like, for the most part, the shit. Yeah. Like we give them the worst product that there is and expect them to like the game. It's really silly to me. It's ass backwards, but municipalities think this way, is that, we need to have really bland stuff. Like good, we can't have good architecture. We need to tone it down. It's like, no, you should have crazier stuff than the country club, because provocative stuff, people feeling emotion, is what hooks them to the game. And the game, people like golf. People like golf more than bowling because bowling is attainable. Like, I suck at bowling, but I know if I worked at bowling, I'd get really good. And the thing about golf is that no matter how good you get, you still think you suck.
Apart from if you're Sam Williams, because he thinks he's awesome pretty much all the time.
Well, I think tour players also think they're awesome, but it's just like they have like a mental but like no matter how good I'm playing, I still am walking around thinking about how much I suck.
I must admit, I go and hit range balls occasionally, and then I immediately think, why the fuck am I doing this? Because it is crap. Like, you're hitting balls that are probably going to break your clubs off a horrible mat. It's minging. There's no experience to it. And you're like, if this was my first experience to golf, I would probably be not returning after this.
But I think at the same time, that's like a rite of passage, isn't it? It's like you've got to get through the shit. And once you've managed to break through the barrier and see what's the other side, then you can kind of explore the wonderful
effective
sport
marketing,
that we have.
though, is it? That's not how you market.
No, it's not good marketing, but it is a rite of passage.
It's not like, just maybe some airlines do it, if you can really push yourself through the barriers of all the extra charges and stuff to get there. But, it's like there's very few industries where that model works, I think. You talked about emotion, provocative stuff there, Andy. Which of those courses that you've listed on your Eclectic 18, what's like the hole that has like maybe the strongest memory, or the first you played, or the one that kind of sticks in your mind the longest?
Oh man, that's a good question. Eagle Springs. I love that place.
This is your first hole.
This was
Eagle Springs.
You played it when you were a kid, yeah?
I played it when I was a kid, and then I remember there being some cool stuff out there. I remember the second hole was a contender on this list. It's like the most absurd volcano green that you've ever seen in your life.
I've seen it on one of your videos. Yeah, I think I know the one you're talking about.
It's absolutely bonkers. But the first hole is nuts too. And this is the thing. And this is what I had played it as a kid. And one of my buddies said to me, Andy, if you go and you spend at the time it was $16 and you play the first two holes and walk away, I guarantee you don't feel like you got ripped off. And there's like 5 really good golf holes at Eagle Springs and 9. So you should go play it. You should go 100% go see it. If you're anywhere in the area of if you're going on a trip to Sand Valley or Lawsonia, just make the stop. It's not very crowded. Like, you can whip around it, and it's a really cool place. It was built in 1895. The same family has owned it since its opening.
That's literally insane.
It's nuts. It's absolutely, and you go into the clubhouse and nothing has changed. It's got this like old Wisconsin charm. I guess it's changed a little because it's just like vintage Wisconsin. When you walk in, it's got a bar, you check in at a bar, and then you go to the first tee and you can't see anything. It's completely, you're teeing up from a valley over like a bluff. So you don't know which way to go. You don't know anything. And I thought this was the perfect way to start this quirky golf course that I created.
It's a monster.
You know, like you're teeing off and you have no clue where it's go. You're going, you hit it over the hill and you get over the hill and you're like, oh, that's what's going on. And it's got this amazing green and it's got this like really cool radical landform that cuts right through the center of the fairway, like this mound. That rolls right into the green. It's just absolutely beautiful. And the green has a big punch bowl on the right and a plateau on the left. And so it's just this wildly cool hole that I thought, like, there are a lot of great first holes, but this one sets the tone for a really quirky, different golf course than you've ever seen in your life. Better than any.
Do you think that having that's a family-owned golf course, so they've never changed it because they've never seen anything that needed to be changed, probably. But there's a lot of golf clubs that are run by committees and stuff, and they try and throttle everything down, don't they? They try and turn the volume down on stuff. If you look at old aerial pictures of our links golf courses, all the bunkers have been massively reduced and throttled back. Do you see a lot of that in the US, or do you think a lot of courses have kind of lost some of their teeth, some of their spark? Because these features are what make it. Like, for me, that's when you see really kind of like strong, potent features on a golf course, like there's nothing better.
I was talking, when I had the pods with Jeff Ogilvy going, we were talking about the Monday finish rule, which is like they had like a third cut sometimes when the field was big on Saturdays on the tour. And he was on the player advisory council when they did that. And this is a wayward way of getting to my point, but I was like, he's like, that's the worst rule in golf. I go, well, how did it happen? He goes, Andy, if you put 12 people in a room long enough, they can talk themselves into anything. And I think that's what greens committees and committees at golf clubs do, is that none of them are golf professionals. They're all like lawyers or accountants or doctors. None of them have any expertise in the subject that they're making these very big, expensive decisions on. And I think there are great architects, but there are also architects that are looking to get a paycheck. And if the club says, hey, we want to do this $200,000 project to wipe away all the character off a golf course, there are a lot of guys that are really excited to take that paycheck and go do the work and erase all the cool stuff and put something there that's a shell of what it should be. And I think that, the committee structure, I think like a lot of the best, there are good committees out there. This is not a, all committees suck thing. There are good committees out there, but a lot of the biggest success stories in America, at least, of turnarounds and courses really realizing their full potential come when one person is in charge that has a vision, that understands what they're doing, and they work with an architect to do that. A lot of clubs go the wrong way by hiring, a guy that's worked at a lot of clubs around them that hasn't done anything significant, when they could hire a young guy that's worked and built some of the best golf courses in the world, and they could hire them for less money than the mediocre guy who's done nothing, of note around them. And, and then they do a bunch of dumb work that makes their golf course worse and costs money and shuts the golf course down for membership.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough though, isn't it? Like, because I feel like especially when it comes to committees, this isn't a committee bashing thing, but they feel like they need to do something. They can't just sit there and just maintain the status quo. It just feels like it's something that they have to put their imprint on it. When you were speaking about the first hole, your Eagle Springs first hole, and it reminded me of a course that Sam and I played down not so far from us, a place called Painswick. And I don't know whether you've ever had this feeling, Andy. So you played it, and Painswick has got at least, it's got lots of blind holes, but it's got 2 par 3s that are about 120, that you go up about a 20-yard elevation. You can't see anything, and you play it. And I remember walking around and thinking, this golf course is rubbish. Like, how are you supposed to play this? But as I left, and I said, days afterwards, I just couldn't stop thinking about this golf course. And I'm just like, really wanted to get back to. On your 18 there, which is the one that you played that perhaps lingered with you the longest? You thought, yeah, I really, really need to get back there.
There's one. Wild Horse would be one, which is in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Gothenburg. It was built by. This is a perfect example of a place hiring guys that work for Bill Core and Ben Crenshaw. Like they couldn't afford to hire Bill and Ben. They hired Dave Axland and Dan Proctor, who have worked and built so many courses for them. But this was one of their first solo jobs. It's in the Nebraska Sandhills, and it's absolutely extraordinary. The golf course. I think the rate's now up to like $85 maybe, but you're talking about, I mean, it's one of the 15 best public golf courses in America. It's 4 hours from the nearest city, which dissuades a lot of people. But, in terms of the best land in America, the Nebraska Sandhills are among the best places that you could possibly build a golf course in America. It's like you see they've got the big dramatic dunes, but also those smaller, more human-sized dunes that you see a lot in Scotland, right? Where those micro contours make great golf. And Wild Horse is really like kind of a smaller scale sandhills with more eccentric greens. Like the greens are wilder. And the golf course, Josh Maher, the superintendent there, does an amazing job of conditioning it. I think about Wild Horse a ton. One that's not on this list that I think about a lot is Northwood, the Mackenzie up in the Redwoods.
That's the huge trees, isn't it? Is it a good golf course, or is it just actually is that just because of the niche vibe of the redwood trees?
The setting is unbelievable. The golf course could be really good. The owner likes to trumpet, that it's a Mackenzie course, but they don't really want to do anything to bring back the features. I mean, the bunkers, the original Mackenzie bunkers are literally sitting there. They're just been grassed over. If you were walking down the fairway, you can see them, and it would be so easy to start putting them back. They have some flooding issues on the bottom holes that wash out bunkers. So I understand like some of the hesitancy down there, but up on the top holes, it makes no sense to not have those bunkers. And I think they're doing really well. They've done a lot of free press from various golf outlets, including mine.
One of the big things that obviously the architecture community in the States has been huge on the last few years is tree removals, like severe, because you've got a lot more maybe well-funded golf clubs, which some of the UK ones are maybe less so, particularly the private ones. But also there's this whole sort of restoration of geometric shapes, all the sort of Seth Rayner stuff. Do you think that's going to look a little outdated maybe in 10 or 15 years time? Or do you think it's kind of like a great move? Because I've not played any of these courses. I see a lot of aerial footage and you're like, wow, these things are sharp, angular things. As I understand it, that was what Seth Rayner kind of put in place as, kind of engineer background and stuff. Don't know, is that I think a little outdated?
I think it's just unique, right? I think it's what we talked about earlier. Is like every golf course has its own identity, and every architect has its own identity, right? So I think like with restoration, it's not. I think one of the things, I haven't seen the work in the UK, but I see a lot of similar sandscapes being done everywhere. It's like the same thing that you see at one course, you see at the course down the street, and that's not restoration. That's an architect putting what they want to do. That's an architect imposing his will. I think one of the things that's made people like Tom Doak, Bill Korb, Ben Crenshaw, and Gil Hance really successful is they go restore places. It's about putting back what the architect originally did. And I think like for that sake, like Rayner having they aren't like square, and there's some bad Rayner restoration is going square. They have rounded corners. The bunkers are not squares. There's a little round to them, but yeah, that geometric type of feel is Seth Rayner. So if you have a Seth Rayner golf course, you want to bring that back because that's what makes you unique, right? Now, if you're at a Walter Travis golf course, you should have really wild greens. Like he built some of the most eccentric greens and had a lot of above ground features, humps and hummocks and stuff that got in the way. So like, that's what they should lean into. It's like every golf course should try and figure out what makes them the most unique they can possibly be, because that's not replicable, right? Me having the same sandscapes as a course down the street, that makes me just look like a ripoff if they did it first.
what are the holes on here, do you think? Because I kind of echo what you're saying there. We see a lot of the sand scrape stuff, and I think that's a perfectly fair analogy for what it's worth. I'm curious, what are the holes on here that we've not talked about stand out to you as being one of the most unique? I mean, Lawsonia, for example, is a golf course that I know you're very fond of. When we started on this, I was like, I just wonder which of the 18 holes is going to be Lawsonia. But which of the courses that we've not talked about on here is kind of maybe worthy of note?
Oh man, I mean, we've talked about Pasatiempo, so like we could talk about Lawsonia's 10th hole here. I mean, a lot of people, this wouldn't be their favorite hole at Lawsonia because it's a par 3 and it's 240 yards, and they connotate that hole's hard, and I made a bogey, so I don't really like it. But when you look at the hole, it's really like, you know, it's sandwiched. You play the 7th hole, there is like the famous boxcar par 3. And then the 8th hole is a really short par 4 that I almost put on here. And then the 9th hole is a par 5. The 10th hole is a gettable par 5. The 11th hole is a gettable par 5. The 12th hole is a par 3. And the 13th hole is a par 5. And the 14th hole is a short par 3. So you have scoring opportunities in here. And this is the one half par hole that trends the opposite way. So people hate long par 3s and they love short par 4s. But if you just change the long par 3s to 4s, people will love it.
So the match play is going on this week, and they keep putting the par in the top right hand corner of the telecast. And it's like, why?
It doesn't matter.
It's pointless. And they keep putting them off the backs. Like, if it's a long 3, make it longer. But just shove them shorter as well if you want on the par 4s. It's like, make them half pars.
So this hole, like when you look at it's 240. You got to like stand up and hit a great shot. But the green, it takes no breaks at the green. A lot of times you have these long par 3s, and then you get to the green, it's kind of boring. This green has got these 2 huge spines that cut of diagonals across it, and it creates like 3 tiers. The right bunker is deep, it's like 10 feet below the ground. So you're dead in there. And then if you go long, the green slopes really severely from back to front. So you're pitching downhill. It's just really hard. It's just an awesome golf hole. If you remove par, if there were no pars, I think people would say this is one of my favorite holes. And it's probably a lot of people's one of the least favorite holes out there, but it's absolutely stunning.
What makes a great golf hole, in your opinion?
At
its simplest level.
Memorable is obviously a big. I think like it depends on how if it's a one-time thing, scenery matters a lot to a lot of people. One of the things I always love is when holes trick me. Yeah, so the first time around, if I play to where I think I should play, and I get there and it's really a bad spot, I love that. I love that. And a lot of these holes, like you see that with like classic boundary holes. Like if you were going to say the 4th at Woking, right, is a classic example of this. So you have the railroad, and you got the centerline bunker, and everybody thinks it's crazy. Like you look at the railroad, first time you get there, I've never been there, but I've looked at this hole a million times. And it's such an easy principle of golf course architecture, right? You look at the boundary and you think, I don't want to mess with that. I'm playing away from the boundary. I'm playing over to the left. But it just delays your penalty, right? You got to take it on. It all of a sudden becomes a part of your next shot. And also you're hitting from a disadvantaged angle. So, you know, people would say, oh, you're crazy for taking that on. But then like a lot of times what you'll do is you'll play to that safe spot. And then you get there and you're like, oh, I should not have played over here. I'm not going to. And a lot of times with these short par 4s, which I think is really interesting, and short par 3s for that matter, is that you need to take it on, or else you're not going to walk away with the 3 you feel like you should make. Like the holes like par 5, short par 5s where you feel like you should make a 4. Short par 4s, you feel like you should make a 3. And then short par 3s, you hate when you walk away with a 4. And great short par 3s are usually like you hit the shot, or else you're going to have a really hard 2-putt or a really hard up and down. And I think that's the thing that like half par holes allow architects to have a little bit more of a
a treacherous surround, and they can go a little bit more extreme, which is one of the reasons for this list. You can get a little bit more extreme when it's a half par hole sliding it's close to a par 3, but we're making it a par 4. Architects talk about this all the time with short courses.
It's interesting that the shortest hole on your scorecard is a par 3, the 7th at Pebble Beach.
And I felt cliche putting it in there.
Well, but it is good though, isn't it? And it's interesting that you talk about short par 3s and you hate getting 4s. That's somewhere that you can really trip up, isn't it? Because it's fairly exposed. It should be nothing more than a sand wedge, but there's danger pretty much everywhere. And it's quite easy to knock up a score there, isn't it?
Well, yeah. And the green's tiny. I mean, and I mean, that hole could be, I think they need to do some expansion of the green, but I mean, the setting of it is absolutely unbelievable. Anybody that hates on it's like, if you go play, like you play that stretch of golf, yeah, you play that stretch of 6 through 11 or through 10. And it's like, God, that was unbelievable. That was like mind melting. And you can obviously, I'm a dreamer. I always think about what it could be, but you know how it's so easy to hit a wedge long left. Yeah, it's so easy to hit a wedge short right. Those aren't good spots. You got the Pacific Ocean. It's usually windy. It's just not a very easy shot to hit. And it's a tiny target. It's super downhill. You're just like kind of like you got to hit a really great shot. And what I like holes that have high variance too. Like I really like holes that you can make. There's a wide range of outcomes based off of the way you play it. A lot of times, what I think that's what makes Augusta and the closing stretch so thrilling is that all those holes are really attainable. You can make a birdie, you can make an eagle at some of them, but like 15, for example, has, we have so many dramatic moments at 15.
Scorecards,
yeah. You had guys that were near the lead. Yeah, like Cabrera, Sergio. But Sergio also hit that incredible shot when he made eagle on Sunday to win.
That was but then before, wasn't it?
Yeah. Then the next year he made a 13 on it. So
wasn't it Molinari when Tiger won a few years back? Molinari was kind of in the fight for it and just was left and started chipping it into the trees and all that stuff. Yeah, on 15. Yeah, you can. It's had some pretty huge things on it. 15.
But it underlines, I think, like exactly what's great about it is like you say, when it's not long. I don't particularly enjoy playing long golf courses, which is why I really like the scorecard that you've put together. But great golf holes generally are ones where you could come off with a score variance of anything between a birdie and a treble, like dead easy. Like there should be a legit 4-shot variance in what you could walk away with. That's exciting. When you feel like, well, maybe I hit the green. If I don't, I make bogey. It's like, okay, great. Well, there's not much excitement at that point in time. So, and I think that stretch at Augusta, for the professional game at least, it really puts it under a spotlight. It makes it super exciting to watch. So,
yeah, I think this is where a lot of golf courses get in the way. They say, "Oh, this golf hole's too easy." Like you should have a hole. You should have holes
gettable. Should be gettable.
Yeah, great shots are rewarded, but you also. Yeah. You want to tempt people to hit a shot that they shouldn't hit. If they're just off the fairway and they're 230, if you put a tree in their way, they're just going to chip out to a wedge, and you're going to just get more pars. More pars and more bogeys and birdie. What you want is people hitting it up by the green and getting themselves in an even worse spot and walking away with a double because they got too aggressive. I think that holes that allow golfers to get aggressive are oftentimes the most compelling holes because they yield, especially if they're the features around the green present, challenges and subtle challenges that work against the aggression. I think that's where architecture and setups of tournaments need to allow golf courses to get, is that they need to provide the way that you provide defense to the best players in the world is using their aggression or sometimes how conservative they are against them. And I think that's what Tom Doak's done so well at Memorial Park down in Houston is you see these guys playing to these bailout areas that Tom knew they're bailing out to, and he kills them with contour. It's just impossible to get up and down, and it's short grass. They could putt,
and the layperson can putt. But these pros like are trying, they have the perfect lie. This is what Mike Clayton always says, which I think sums it up so well. A perfect lie, but an impossible shot is way more fun to watch. The best players in the world attempt than a impossible lie and a mundane shot.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to mowing it close, doesn't it, in general? Like, I think so many golf courses would be better for, maybe sacrificing some of the maintenance budget on, quicker green speeds, maybe cut them once a week less, but actually have more slick runoffs, mow it closer, create more contouring around the greens. Hacking out a rough from green side's just never any fun. And like you say, it's a nice leveler when you've got it. So, is there room for innovation, do you think? Do you think there's much more room for innovation? You've talked about Sweetens Cove, for instance, is your 18th, which I guess as a concept is probably one of the most innovative things we've seen in golf course design for some time, right? Or certainly that's the steer I get. Is there a lot of room for more innovation, do you think?
Yeah, I do. I think so. I think what Tom's doing at Sedge Valley is super. It's more in line with this type of routing. Just finding the best green sites, not worried about par or distance. I think that's where, especially for public golf, that's where it's got to go. Sweetens, I think this is super interesting. The thing that is amazing about Sweetens Cove is how a 9-hole course in the middle of nowhere has become a destination. Yeah. It's always been thought that the destination needs to be 36 holes and have lodging. Yeah. Sweetens Cove has none of that, and it's worked out. And I think that's the thing that blows my mind the most about Sweetens Cove. It's an audacious design in terms of the contours are big, they're extreme, and it's an example of what, that's the right side. I think critics can always say it will. Golf course critics say, oh, that green's too extreme. I'd 10 times out of 10 take an architect that leans on the line a little over the edge and extreme than the architect that never sees the line. Yeah, and I think like overcooked greens are better than bland greens. And, I think, but the one thing I will say is that what you see with the really great architects that have been around for a long time that are really great at their craft, whether they're old, golden age architects or Bill or Tom or Gil, is that they have the confidence to build really great subtle greens. And I think that's something that young architects struggle with.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you're obviously heading to St Andrews in the summer, and the Castle course, which is TMK's effort, very similar in terms of what it's seeking to achieve as Kings Barnes. That just gets absolutely slammed, particularly by Tom Doak in terms of the severity of the greens. It's exciting. Like, it splits opinion. We were talking about this the other day. We have this stuff called Marmite in the UK. I don't even know if you have it, but it's like stuff you put on toasted bread, and you either love it or you hate it. So these like Marmite golf courses that, some people really enjoy because it's like beautiful scenery and it's really wacky and the greens are crazy. And other people who are like, oh, it's too far. I'm not really sure where I stand on it, but I can kind of see that. I think you can see that people want to put some trickery in. We spoke to Martin Niebert on the podcast. He said the same. He was like, I look at what I did when I was really young, and it was like, crikey, that was a little bit extra, a bit too much, maybe. And I think,
and you can always dial back greens. I think if you have gone too far, you can always dial them back a little bit, but it's hard once they're in to make them a bit more interesting, I think. There's certain cases of that where they've been dialed back here recently.
If you want to consider golf architecture an art, not everything should be met with universal praise. Art is provocative. It creates opinions, and I think the best architecture creates opinion. Like, I don't think that every golf course should be universally praised. If every golf course is universally praised, it probably is a little mundane.
Even Pine Valley, Cypress Point.
I mean, Cypress is so good. I could get. I think like the setting
if you took, I hate doing this. I actually like loathe when people say this, but when you take away the setting, the architecture's still really good at Cypress. I don't think you can say that for all oceanfront courses. I think it should, golf courses, really good golf design should make you feel something. You should get frustrated. There's things that should frustrate you, the really good artists though also aren't sloppy. There's sloppy aspects of bad architecture with tie-ins and stuff like that. But I think from the sense of like, when you think about golf courses and golf architecture, holes that provoke some sort of emotion from you are ones that are worthy of a second look.
I think I'm with you in terms of, like the frustration should be self-imposed. Like all the good golf architecture that's here in the UK, none of it revolves around being able to shoot a good score. It gives you options off the tee. You can make a bogey and they give you a bogey line. That's fine. You can make your bogey, and every player of every handicap has got the ability to improve their round if they hit the ball well. Whereas you go to some places and the courses are designed for the better ball strikers or whatever, and you're looking at, I've played places where it's like 240 yards to make the fairway. Case in point, we played one of the back tees, I think 11th at King Barnes, and it's like 240 yards of the fairway, and you're like, I can't play this. That's not where I was designed. That I was supposed to play it from.
You're giving yourself a hard time, but you can shift it, but not into a howling breeze there.
Yeah, and it's like that you should be able to score every golfer of all abilities, and all the mistakes, all the frustration you get should be self-imposed.
It should be attainable. That's an important thing. Like the challenge should be attainable. A hole that's unattainable that you feel like you cannot conquer, that's probably not a good golf hole. If you feel like, no matter what I do, I can't have success, that's where, it lies. But if it's attainable, if it's challenging, so be it. But like, if you feel like you can attain it, and if you get to a certain position, your odds of attaining it are much greater, then, I just think people look too much at, they follow their ball and allow the ball, where their ball ends up, to dictate too much of how they think of a golf course. But
I think there's a lot of obsession on score.
Yeah. I think about this all the time, especially this week, is like, how much different would golf design be if match play was still the dominant form of the game?
Yeah, 100%. Sure. I totally agree. And also, I think, to an extent, people just fundamentally play from the wrong tee boxes, like repeatedly. Like, I think match play as a dying art is a shame. So many people want to hit their own ball. We play a huge amount of foursomes golf over in the UK, which is great. And actually, I can still appreciate a golf course that I'm playing for the first time simply by playing foursomes golf, and I don't feel like I'm missing out that much. And I think the other thing I'd say is we've, spending time in Scotland recently. I can't remember who was saying this to us, Tom, but the days where back in the 1980s and the 1990s, people used to look in golf magazines and they'd go and play Muirfield and Carnoustie and they'd shoot 140 and they'd come off the course and go, that was great fun. I really enjoyed that. I kind of think those days are changing, actually. And I think everything's getting softened down a bit because you're seeing the Castle Stewarts, the Kings Barns come along, which are making these more playable, wider kind of second shot golf courses. So, yeah, I mean, we're talking there a little bit about Scotland. Where's on your itinerary, because you've got your first trip coming up to the UK in the summer, hopefully. What's on the list?
So we're going over the weeks of the Scottish and the Open, so it's going to be centered around with those. I'm going to have to do a little bit of tournament coverage mixed with going to see places. So North Berwick area, and then St. Andrews, obviously. So around there, and I've been on Google Earth quite a bit, and there's quite a bit of golf. I can't believe how much golf there is. Like, I tell you what, it's just truly unbelievable.
I was listening to you talk about being 4 hours from the nearest city, and I remember you saying it. It was like, you can drive. We can pretty much we live in like the middle of England and just outside Birmingham, and we can nearly get to St. Andrews in 4 hours. In that time, you pass and Royal St. George's in the other direction. And in that time, you pass thousands of good golf courses, and you're going to be in Renaissance for the Scottish. East Lothian, I mean, is absolutely absurd. It's just golf course 1 mile, golf course another mile, and they're all worldies. Like absolutely brilliant on there.
I know. I want to play all of them. You know, you're just scrolling through and you're like, I could like walk to the next course and play there. And the days are so long too. That's the incredible thing. We got to set up the itinerary. I still haven't booked flights. I'm the worst procrastinator in the world. So I have to plan everything out, and that's like pulling teeth. But yeah, any recommendations are happy to take them. And then I hope, like, my favorite thing to do is to just go to places, like, just no plan, just show up at certain places that at the end of the days, and have a walk around.
We've definitely found the right place. And of course, once you get out of East Lothian, you're in Fife, which is probably the second most populous place in the world for golf courses. So there's loads you can do up there. And of course,
it feels like, when we go cover, when the US Open was at Erin Hills, for example, we had an hour drive every day from where the media hotel was to Erin Hills.
That's unacceptable in the UK. It's just unacceptable.
I was looking at it and I'm like, well, even if I stayed in East Lothian the entire 2 weeks, I'm like only 40 minutes from St. Andrews.
You won't do it in 40 minutes. You'll need more. But yeah, it's about 1 hour.
It's insane because this is like the thing. Like when I lived in the city of Chicago, to play good public golf, it was on the weekend, always a minimum of an hour out, hour in. It's like just like what I'm used to driving to go play golf as being in the US.
This sounds like one of those stories you tell your wife. She's like, no, it's an hour there, and then I've got to be 5 hours on the golf course.
I'm serious.
Are we back in 8 hours?
If you go early in the morning, you'd get down there in 40 minutes, but then you get all the traffic coming back into the city for people going to sightsee on summer days in Chicago. And you get effectively, it's an hour 15 back in. It's crazy. Until you live here, you just don't understand the pain of being a city dweller in America and wanting to play golf.
Oh, well, you're going to have a great trip when you come over to Scotland and UK. I'm sure the DMs are lighting up as we speak with invites, but you're just going to absolutely love it. It's absolutely insane.
We haven't gone through any of the holes.
We
don't really do that.
Okay, good.
Well, did you want to go through them? No, I tell you what we always do on these episodes, because the thing is, it's boring, right? If you say, this one's a par 4, 298 yards, and the whole thing is, people should then click on your website where you've got your article talking about that.
Yeah, I wrote it. I wrote about it because I was doing this.
Exactly. So it's not about going, that's a par 4. How was that? And I mean, there's loads of things I want to talk to you about, but the thing is, you just end up getting the golf courses, and the idea of the Eclectic 18 is it's more of a jumping off point around you and golf. It's not about every hole in its constituent part. Like there's stuff in here we've not touched, like Pinehurst. I'm interested. The whole reversible thing at the loop, like that's insane. Like I'm really interested to know about that. There's
that hole is super cool, by the way.
Aiken, by the way, I've played Aiken. We played it on an American trip. We played some amazing
good for golf courses to go to Aiken.
Well, we did. We're very lucky. We played Peachtree, Atlanta Athletic, and then went down to Palmetto, which is just, as you know, absolutely incredible place.
How is that? How's Aiken, the town, with golf compared to like England? Because I hear that that comparison thrown around a lot. And I think like the Aiken Golf Club as a public course has got a real distinct different feel than most public courses in America.
Okay, so I didn't know that. I'd say that the town feel of Aiken around golf. Aiken's just got a lovely sleepy town vibe, hasn't it? I would say it's much sleepier than any town you go to. What I would say is everybody in England is really angry all the time, whereas no one in Aiken seemed that angry, and that was quite nice. So people seem quite happy. Everyone seems like they're walking along the pavement in slow motion because no one's in a rush to go anywhere, whereas everyone's like swearing at everyone over here. So in terms of the town, totally different, golfy wise. Palmetto's got that kind of old school Southern vibe, hasn't it? Which is, I think there's maybe a little bit of similarity there with some of the British private clubs, perhaps. But Aiken was cool, but we were stuck behind massive slow play. Like you're talking about public golf and pace of play. we had a flight out of Atlanta, I think, at about 5 p.m.
That's an awful drive too.
Yeah, we're teeing off at like 9:30, and we got through 11 holes, and I was like, these are banging golf holes. And then we never got to 14, which is on your scorecard. But it's a great golf course. Amazing.
That's a perfect boundary line hole. That's my boundary line hole. Yeah. You think you should just fan it out right. You're afraid to take on the green, which is pressed right up out of bounds. And then you get over right and you're like, oh, this is going to be really hard to make a 3. And it's 255 yards. It's par 4. So you think you should make a 3 there. You think you should just bully it.
It's actually optimal.
Aiken, I just love that place. It's right in the downtown. You could walk from downtown to the course, and then it doesn't have an out and back routing, which is rare. Like with it returning 9s, it's an out and back. My bad for misstating that, but it's an out and back. So you go out and you come back, and if you play it early, a lot of guys on Saturday mornings, it's like a 3-hour spin for most.
Yeah, if you get out
regulars
early and you play quick. I mean, slow golf is, we always say on this podcast, it's a blight on the game. It's one of the biggest barriers to playing is time. It's probably the biggest, to be honest with you.
Well, that's why there needs to be more 5,000-yard courses. They take less time to play.
And people that play quickly as well. So to answer your question, we don't go through the holes individually, but what I do want you to do to end the podcast, Andy, is to talk through your scorecard, just so we've got it on the record, holes 1 to 18. And interject with any stories if you need them.
First hole, Eagle Springs. It's par 4, 298. Second hole, Old Macdonald. It's a par 3, 181. It's an Eden green. So like the 11th at St. Andrews. I think it's the best American Eden green that I've seen. It's really cool. Dead flat land. Pinehurst number 2 is the third hole. It's just a hole that embodies kind of Pinehurst number 2. It's the more you play it, the more scared of the second shot you are. The green's crazy. It's right outside Donald Ross's home there at Pinehurst, and you're just sweating hitting that second shot. And if you don't hit perfect distance control, spin control, you're dead. The loop, the fourth hole on the black course, is my fourth hole. I love it because it's got like this half pipe front of the green, and they put the pin there. You have to drive it right up the center, or else you got like a really hard shot. You're like coming in from the end of the half pipe from the sides,
right above it.
Yeah. So it's super easy if you're in the right spot because it's like you have bumpers in your bowling. But if you're on the sides, it's brutal. I think Brian Schneider built that green. I really like that green. And then we got Greywalls, the fifth hole there, which is just wild. It's the wild setting, granite rock outcrops,
exposed rock and everything. Yeah.
Gargantuan. I'm talking like 50 feet tall granite rock outcroppings. Like you're playing over it into the fairway, and then the green is tucked right against a giant one. Just such a cool place. It's like you don't feel like you're playing golf there. You feel like you're going on an adventure, and you're trying to conquer this like crazy terrain. 6 of packed dunes. Spectacular short par 4 that has similar strategy to 10 at Riviera, except it's like kind of flipped. So you want to play right. 7 Pebble Beach we talked about. 8 at Bandon Trails. Bandon Trails is a spiritual place, and the 8th hole you get up to the top of the hill that you climb up, and it's this hole that just sits right on the ridge. It's a really cool short par 4. 9 at Wild Horse, really great place. What I like about that hole is deception from the tee. Left looks dead because there's this big blowout bunker on the left, and right is filled with short grass. And you think, oh, I should just favor right. But there's this vicious side like runoff that takes anything on the right third of the green and it sends it tumbling way away from the green. And then the left side, you get up there, and this is what I'm talking about, holes that trick you. You get up there, and there's like a ton of green over that left bunker that you're scared of. It's brilliant, and you're just like, God, I wish I would have known. And you end up over on the right, and you got it really hard up and down. 10 at Lawsonia, we talked about. 11 at Belvedere. So William Watson course. This is a private club that every day is open to the public in northern Michigan.
it's just a really cool hole. The green, there's some cool drainage stuff going on that I actually wrote an article about the other day that'll be up on the site soon. It's a really cool green. Rustic Canyon's 12th hole, a short par 4, again, hazard that makes you play away from it, and you play right, and then you're left with a really delicate little chip. Gil Hansen, Jim Wagner, and Jeff Shackelford course in Southern California. Pacific Grove's 13th, which we talked about. Aiken's 14th, which we just talked about. The 15th at Diamond Springs. This is Mike DeVries course in Michigan, Grand Rapids area. This hole is like jaw dropping. You playing over like a canyon. A lot of people have seen pictures of the 7th hole at Cal Club. And this is like, it's just like this. It was built before that. One of the things I love about it is it's really scary to hit any shot there. If you go for the green or if you lay up, because you can't really see the layup area. It's blind. And then you get over on the left and you're like, there's all this space over there. But one of the neat things, if you bail left, you have a blind second shot into short par 4, which I really like.
Yeah, nice.
3-tiered green. Pasatiempo 16th. Don't really need to talk about this. One of the most famous holes in America. Closest thing probably to the Sitwell green that Mackenzie designed in America. And then George Wright 17. That's 17th hole at George Wright. It's a cool par 3. It kind of embodies the setting of the course. It's got, like in New England, it's got this giant rock outcropping just off the tee, and the green sits back right up against this forest. It's just a beautiful hole. And then the 18th at Sweetens Cove. I love par 3 finishers, especially if you're in matches.
Back-to-back par 3 finishers. Tell me about it. Jesus.
Well, you got it. I don't understand the hate against the par 3 as the last hole. Because if you're playing a match, it's the ultimate, like, especially ones with like severity, like 18 to Pasatiempo, I thought about putting in here too, is like, it's the most pressure because you have this iron shot that you know you have to hit well. And both of those holes, if you hit a good shot, 2 is really easy to make. But if you don't hit a good shot on both of those holes, you could find yourself in a very, very difficult place to make par. And I think it's like the ultimate pressure moment for the end of a match. You just have to execute a shot.
Cool. Yeah, I can.
This is a match course.
Match play finishes are 100% key. I don't know. Back-to-back par 3s, jury's out on that. I don't know any good architects that have ever used back-to-back par 3s.
Tom Duck did it at
Pacific. I knew he would. I'm just kidding.
There's all kinds of places.
I know.
Yeah, I know. You're just pulling my chain here.
I'm like, what? You went prep. That is your Eclectic 18, Andy. It's been a blast. Thank
you guys for having me on. This was a great joy.
We're so out of our depth doing this because I mean my sea of golf courses in America is pretty slim. Like I've not played many, so it's so hard. Like, and they all sound the same. So when you send them through, it's all Pacific Springs and Eagle Grove, and they all sound the same. And there's about 1 million, and they're all named the same. So I sent you your first scorecard back, and you were like, "Yeah, this is the wrong Eagle Springs, Sam. It's like it's not 390 yards. This golf hole."
It's very important. Eagle Springs Golf Resort.
Eagle Springs Golf Resort. We should probably do a bit of work to tag these properly in the scorecard when it goes up. But no, that was cool. That's been a blast.
Yeah, thank you. I was thinking about it when I was making this. I'm like, these guys have probably seen none of the courses I've seen. I haven't seen any of the courses they've seen. So
exactly, we're all in the same
boat. Speaking foreign languages.
The difference is you're not having to quiz us on the British courses, so you're in a position of comfort at least.
Hey, did you guys see that old aerial that got posted on Twitter of Huntercombe from 46?
I've seen. I have seen plenty of old photos.
Yeah. Gorsnad posted it. I stared at that for like an hour last night.
It's a cool golf course. It's the 4th green, isn't it? 4th or the 5th green with the.
You got to look at that old aerial.
Really?
It looks like there's cool shit everywhere.
There's some quite cool aerials recently come out of Birkdale, which are quite interesting to look at. Certainly, like in terms of the sanitization of Birkdale, because you've got like, I think it's the 14th par 3. It just looked like you stood on, I mean, if you stood on the tee there, just like nothing but bunkers is all you can see. But now it's kind of just littered around, just a couple of them. But yeah,
it seems like that's what's happened to a lot of UK courses is a little bit of a sanitation. And that's why you guys might be ripe for a real restoration boom.
Yeah, well,
I think we're in the midst of it. Yeah.
I mean, our course that we play at Blackwell is it's about 6,000 yard golf course. It's a Fowler and Simpson. I think you could take the best architects of today. It's 100 acres and it's a really good 18-hole golf course. Like it's one of the best in England, but the routing is just next level. But we've done a massive restoration program with Frank Pond, who works with Clates and Doris. And Frank's like just brought new life into the golf course. It's just like widening up the playing corridors. You've got, all of a sudden you've got choices off the tee. It's like, do I want to hit an iron here or do I want a good gun driver down there? It's like, it's fun again. Whereas before it was like, Frank always uses this term about like a dusty old Rembrandt in the attic. And when you take it down and you actually polish it up and you get it nice, you realize it's a masterpiece, but it just needs a lot of work. And there's so many courses like that. The Addington gets plenty of mention. We did an Eclectic 18 podcast recently with James Day, and we talk about the Addington in that. But when he's finished with that, in the UK, that will make a lot of golf courses look almost obsolete overnight because it's just so radical what they're doing. So yeah, it's cool. There's loads of great stuff over here. A few weeks in the summer is not going to cut it, but I'm sure you'll be back very soon.
Yeah, as I start to look at it, it's like I need to spend like a summer just to do, Scotland and probably wouldn't hit everything. It's like, no, there's going to be lots of trips. UK, in England, I really want to see a lot of courses in England. Look at some of those
massively
pictures.
Underrated compared to Scotland. Hugely underrated.
I'm actually really almost more intrigued by England than Scotland.
I think the Heathlands are genuinely, and there's a lot of masterpieces there to play. But there's some just really cool old school golf clubs as well to see. You'd love it. But it's
interesting. We had Zach Blair on here a few months back, and he came over and he was doing some of the Heathlands because he wanted to kind of assess with the tree farm. Did he want to try and make it a bit Heathlandy? And he said, these Heathland courses. You talk about, West Hill, Woking, St George's Hill, Sunningdale. He's like, yeah, they're amazing, but I'm not putting heather anywhere near my golf course. It's so hard. It's beautiful, but it's so hard to play out of. If you're in there, it's just disastrous.
Yeah, but, it's that's the whole native grass and heather and everything is a whole nother topic, lengthy topic. Yeah.
How do you close your podcast? You don't allow intros.
Yeah,
how do you do
you basically took away my intro from me. So would you like to? Would you like to finish it?
Can you close the podcast down, please, Andy?
Tom Doak, the first time I recorded a batch of podcasts with him, I was like, oh, that's it. I'm done. And it was such a backhanded remark. It was so great. I mean, he goes, yeah, the real pros know how to open and close it really well. Still haven't figured out how to close one out, so...
well, I'm going to have to give it some sort of bash. Yeah. All right. Cheers, Andy. See ya.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. That was fun.
Watch this.